Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Bartitsu videos, where we look at items that you'll be able to find on your person or in the environment in a bar, pub, club or restaurant and be able to use as an incidental or an accidental weapon. So we'll move on to quite an easy thing, the use of keys. Now, hopefully, if you know what you're doing, most people will have given up on the notion of holding the keys in the fist and poking them through. If you ever tried to hit anything with this with any degree of force, a punch bag, they bend, they flex, they're more likely to hurt your own fist than the opponent. So if you are going to use keys in a self-defense scenario, one of the best ways I've found is to use a pinch grip. So again, using your thumb and your forefinger, use the bit of key at the top, and again you're using this to drive. And there are a number of ways. You can use short, sharp jabbing motions towards the eyes. So like a short fencer's lunge, like so. Short, sharp stabs, but again, aiming for the eyes is best because it won't hurt. In the throat, potentially at longer range, you can get some degree of damage, but it's not going to be a game ender. But I think the better use of these is when we're in a bit of a clinch. As an incidental, let's say I'm trying to get into my house or into my car and the keys are already in my hands, up close. So if I get a grip around the neck, I can drive these behind the ear, I can drive them into the eye, I can drive them into the throat, but I can put due pressure on and I can corkscrew them in. I don't just hold pressure like this, I drive it into the person. So they work much better off an attachment. If I get the back of your neck, driving in ear, nose, throat. Or if I've got your lapel, driving upwards. So if I'm a bit shorter, I've got your lapel, I've got your jacket, driving this into the throat, driving this into the eye, driving this to the corners of the mouth. Again, the drive with the key works much better than the stab. If you are going to stab, it's at longer range. And again, you can cause some damage, but for best, you're playing for time. However, it's much better usage is once you've engaged in a grapple, especially if it's incidental, if I'm going in my car, going in my house. Once I've got the grip, drive it in to cause some pain, to get the disruption, the unbalancing, the kazushi. So, I'm off balance, you've got it in my eye. After which then, you can abandon this really and move into your unarmed techniques. You can get the throw, you can get the choke, you can get the ground and pound, whatever you need to do to finish that confrontation. So ways to use the keys. One, long range thrusts, but again, using the pinch grip, never in the fist, or more beneficially at close range, once you've got the grip around the neck, on the collar, driving in and make sure you still operate it like a key. Drive it in to those soft, squidgy, painful places. That's the use of the key. We've got very much the same scenario with stationery. So again, stationery here, normal pen. Now, if you've got a combat pen, all power to you. They're strong, they're robust, you can cause damage in any way. Let's go with a normal pen now. A normal pen is relatively weak. So a bit like the keys, what we have to do is apply a pinch grip, like so, and a slightly elongated thumb. So we call this a saber grip, running it down the edge. Again, we want to make sure that the painful, sharp bit is the bit that protrudes. I don't want to leave too much of it out there because it will bend and snap. So I want to support this painful, sharp bit here. And again, much like the keys, I can do long range thrusts. And again, make sure I keep them snappy towards the eyes, towards the face. Again, I can play for time, I can play for distance while I think of something better to do. But in reality, its best usage is once I've got an attachment, once I've got your lapel and I can drive into the squidgy bits, as I mentioned before, or around the back of the neck. Again, always driving and grinding. Don't just push it, drive it and grind it. Eyes, behind the ear, into the throat, along the arteries, under the chin. Anywhere really on the face is painful, but if you want it to be extra painful, again, eyes, here, here, they all cause significant damage. Get your attachment, grind it in. Now you can also do this with a dart, obviously. So if you're in a pub, get a dart, you can do the exact same thing. But again, much like the pen, make sure that the sharp pointy bit is the only bit that really protrudes. The rest of it you want to hold for good structure, good combative structure from here. And again, making sure you've got good discipline. So if I'm in a tight, crowded space, I want to keep my elbows in. I want to keep the weapon hand slightly more forward, like so. If I'm jabbing, if I'm grappling, I'll probably put this in my rear hand. And again, I use it to drive upwards and sideways. And don't forget, I can use other unarmed techniques as I'm doing this. So I might get a collar and elbow. I might get a collar grip here. I might drive this behind the ear, and then I might change it to be a hammer fist. So several hammer fists and drive, several hammer fists and drive. And again, making sure to not forget your body when you're using a weapon. So if I've got you around the collar here and I'm driving these in, making sure that I'm using my hammer fists, my elbows, and that my footwork is moving, so I'm always ragging you around. You're always off balance for me to strike you with other things. Then we start to look at things that can be thrown. So things that can be thrown, you think of condiments like so, you think of things like pool balls. So there are two ways to use these. I call them consumables or projectiles. So I'm going to go with this onion as a decent simulator for a pool ball. I hold this in a kind of cricketer style grip here. So I've got the bulk of that hard surface still sticking out, okay? I hold this back in my rear hand as I hold this front hand out. So I'm still maintaining range. I can play for time by threatening powerful shots of this. You throw something at a person, even if it's a soft squishy ball, most people flinch or back away, which is good kazushi. I might fake the throw and then move into other unarmed combat. I can literally throw it, but again, I'd recommend if you're going to get used to throwing things, get used to being able to throw at target. Because if you, in a peaceful, calm situation, can't throw something like this at a target the shape of a face, the size of a face, don't even dream of doing it when you're under pressure. But again, holding it here, keeping the elbows in, good discipline. You can fake those dynamic throws to get the flinch reactions to do something else. You can literally throw it, but make sure you've got good experience. Or, preferentially I find, with these types of options, they're quite good at you being used as bludgeoning items. So again, if I've got a lapel grip, if I've got a collar grip, I can smash this hard object, imagine that's a pool ball, into the face, into the eyes, across the nose, onto the collarbone. Again, anywhere I'd use a normal blunt instrument. So again, I've got my collar grip and I can strike repeatedly. And as before with the keys and the pen, I can also use my elbows. I can also use my hammer fists. So I'm using my atemiwaza from jiu-jitsu and my situational weapon awareness, which is this pool ball. It could be, for example, this salt shaker. Again, I'm striking with the hard end surface here. So if I'm using a salt shaker, if it's squared, use the most powerful projected item on it. Strike, strike, strike. Okay, so you've got those different strikes from an attachment on the lapel, attachment on the neck. You've got long range throw, and you've got long range fake throws, following which you can close the distance with something else. So that concludes part 2 of Bartitsu and using your arsenal of weapons.